Firstly, talk about why a norm of work would be actively preferable to a norm of love and why it is probably, as outlined, the likely alternative. Secondly, the harms of this norm of love upon relationships themselves and why they get actively better without this norm and this reinforcement. Firstly, just to point out where we will be extending this debate, I think that OG's harms are in many cases tied up in other prevailing norms in society, such as in beauty, such as in misogyny and patriarchy, and especially the harms brought out in the Prime Minister's speech. We think a lot of these things are maybe things that would certainly that are added to by love. The points are still standing in that regard, but we think probably less marginally important than the material we're going to bring. I think then that when OO say that people will be defined by their social status or their jobs under our world, they miss the fact that this is by and large already the way the world functions for a number of reasons that aren't tied to this norm of happiness. So what is the distinction? We think under capitalism, you are largely forced to, other people view you based on your successes and your failures in work anyway to a large extent, despite the fact that there isn't a prevailing norm that says that you should find your personal value predominantly in your work. I think what that means, and the fact that this norm of love exists and pushes you in sometimes away from working and pursuing your social status, is that you're being pushed in the wrong direction by the norm of love to the social system that you exist under. It would be actively beneficial for you to do things that were in line with pursuing your social status or building your social status. And we think this is the thing that you lose when you have a norm of love instead. You don't get the kind of progression in their career, but you are still judged by the same metric of success because you physically have less stuff. You're less able to spend time doing the things that the wealthy do, like having massive amounts of leisure time and having lots of cultural capital. We think that means you suffer a lot of the harms they outline in their case isn't necessarily comparative to that analysis. So at that point, we think you probably win. So we think then you have a lot of incentives to go towards love anyway, which are the fact that you have short-termism, like relationships are actively enjoyable in a way that work just often isn't, and the benefits of work are often mostly for others or for long-term goals that you can't track. We think though that the norm of, so we think you have like incentives to go into to love anyway because you get that massive short-term thing. Whereas you don't, what this norm makes you do is stay in those relationships at the point where they are no longer fulfilling, at the point where you no longer get those benefits that you would otherwise stay in those relationships for, and tips you toward picking relationships instead of work in situations where there would be trade-offs. So why does that happen? We think that the norm that happens instead is probably the norm of work for reasons outlined by opening opposition, so I won't go too much into that, but I will say that it is the other thing besides relationships that are as all-consuming, they take up most of your time, most of your life, and they are the only thing that rival relationships in that sense. They are also just the culturally most held-up thing under the status quo, fit best in with the economic system that we have, which means that it's likely to be the dominant. So we think that a number of trade-offs then exist in the status quo at the point where you have the prevailing norm of love. What are they? Firstly, we think people are more likely to prioritize relationships over working in a couple of scenarios. So what does that look like? Firstly, it looks like people abandoning their friends, or to some extent, to pursue relationships. But it also means that people are more likely to make decisions like moving to a different city than the one they would have originally moved to, because their love interest lives there. Or not studying as much as they otherwise could, so that they can spend more time talking to the person they love and less time doing that. As well as things just like taking different jobs. And I think this harm is especially pernicious to women because you're at the point where you also have a prevailing norm of misogyny existing alongside this norm. You're more likely to view this norm of love in a way that makes you want to pursue love to the detriment of your career, because you're told that the way that you as a woman should expect to move through life is to invest more in love and your relationship, and those two things are mutually exclusive. So you're more likely to abandon these things. I think that it's bad to abandon your career for a number, or to do just less well than you could otherwise for a number of reasons. Firstly, we think that work is often done for the benefit of other people, and if you are losing some of the good things that you could be doing in work, say if you could have been a much better doctor than you were going to be, it's probably just a good thing that you prioritize your reputation in your field more than you prioritize your relationship, because you can help more people doing that. Secondly, we think that working is more reliant on every step of the way demonstrating that you have been making progress than relationships are. We think you can jump into a relationship at any point in your life and have it basically be fine, even if you haven't been in relationships continuously throughout your life. Whereas if you have a massive 5-year gap on your CV, you are not going to get a job nearly as easily, which means that, or if you have a 2-1 and you have a second-class degree instead of a first-class degree, you are less likely to get hired for a job, which means you just have massively more harms associated with missing out on work than you do missing out on relationships. But I think then, yeah, women are more likely to become trapped or economically dependent on their partners at the point where they abandon their careers to go and to pursue relationships instead. And all of these things are just likely to be harmful in a number of ways. For all of them. I will take someone from love.
Sure, okay. So what you're saying is that if I focus on love, I have a comparative disadvantage to other people. However, since everyone adheres to that norm of love, there is no comparative disadvantage because everyone does it and we're just happier.
Oh no, I think that the comparative disadvantage that exists for you is that the people who are more able to do both of those things at the same time because they have more wealth just do it instead, and you as someone who has less wealth can't catch up to them. Or just that you as an individual person could more easily catch up or just do better in your life anyway and achieve those things. I don't think they're necessarily dependent on there being a fixed number of things. Yeah, cool. So we think this is also massively harmful to relationships in and of themselves for a number of reasons. We think you are more likely to stay in failing relationships because you, after a certain point, have invested so much time in pursuing this norm of this fulfilling relationship that you think to abandon it would be to betray some cultural values that you've been taught. Adding into this the idea that many friends and family are likely to have reinforced this narrative to you throughout your life, as well as the media, just means you're more likely to think that this is the only way to function. And so once you have found your fulfilling relationship, you are less likely to want to leave it because that's what you've been told to do. What that means is that you don't leave relationships after they become unfulfilling, which means that you raise children in environments that aren't loving. You are more likely to put up with things you don't like about your partner that might be actively detrimental to your well-being. But we think relationships get better without this because you don't resent your partners for making you miss out on opportunities like the ones I talked about earlier. You're more likely to have external locusts of identity which make your relationships healthier and more likely to find the fulfillment of what you find. I beg you to look for this.
So, I'm going to talk about the three main things in this. First, I do get actual fulfillment from our side of the house, unlike a lot of the things that have been brought up by government. Secondly, how romantic love is ultimately a mission for family units, the benefits we get from society and to individuals from that. And thirdly, the benefits to women and caregivers in society. So, firstly, some rebuttal. So we've been brought a number of characterizations across the board from both Opening Gov and Closing Gov. Firstly, Opening Gov proposed this characterization not of romantic love but of chauvinism. Let's be real, this happens anyway. All the kind of descriptions in terms of people valuing themselves based on attractiveness, etc., etc. This happens anyway on either side of the house. What you have with romantic love, however, unlike what has been described currently, is emotional, intrinsic, and often not based on appearance. However, when you remove the normalization of that, you ultimately just get the form of sexual attraction, which is the ultimate form of value based on appearance at the end of the day. Because if anything in your side of the house, we increase the risk of that as we move from the romantic love, looking at the pursuit of spending time with the individual, spending time getting to know them, getting to be in a better relationship with them, and instead move towards the self-fulfillment, casual sex, hookup lifestyle where they can just hook up for self-pleasure and their own actualization, and actually ignore all the potential and keep the harms that you have on your side. Secondly, in terms of the harms, in terms of defining yourself to others and the harms that we get with that, that happens anyway in our side. No matter what happens, you will always define yourself in relation to your career, your school, your friendships. This isn't exclusive to romantic love. This is, if we accept these harms, you get them on, you will always get them on both sides. Therefore, we need to take the benefits of romantic love on our side. No thanks, I'll take it in a bit. And then in terms of opposing government, again, the description in terms of the harm that this has to women in society currently. I'm not going to describe that in terms of the benefits we have for women, but you talk primarily about, again, this is misogyny, not romantic love. With romantic love, you get matters such as equal burden sharing, or often not financial burden sharing, childcare burden sharing, rather than a one-way misogynistic value based on self-fulfillment. Anyway, okay, so what we get on our side of the house, we actually get fulfillment on our side of the house. Having a partner, having someone to share your life with, having someone to share your problems with, someone to start a family with, someone to, you know, have a best friend effectively. You get that on our side of the house. The actual, no thanks, I'll take points in a moment and I'll take where we go when I do. Yeah, so people ultimately people ultimately pursue their best self in order to attract a partner. In order to attract a partner, they look to improve themselves. They look to get the good job. They look to have a stable income. They look to have all of the self-actualization, self-care, grooming, etc., etc. All the good things that have been described that we get on our side of the house, we actually get even more so by people pursuing that in pursuit of their own, or in pursuit of a partner at the end of the day. Because those benefits not only improve themselves, improve their chances of getting a partner, but also improve society as a whole. So anything we get on our side, we have. So yeah, side effects benefits individuals and society as a whole. Yeah, go for it.
So we understand that the problem of self-fulfillment is that you always relate yourself to either other people or your career, yes. But the problem is that when you relate yourself to a person that you love, you risk uncertainty of them harming you because you justify abuse because of the fact that you have a chemical connection to that person. Why is that going to be better on your side?
Again, that's an issue of normalizing violence, that's an issue of normalizing misogyny within society by saying it's okay to stay in a relationship where you're being abused, or it's okay to stay in a relationship where you're unhappy, or it's okay to stay in a relationship where you're, you know, not in love with that person, whereas we normalize the actual romantic love itself. It allows people to get out of that rather than. So that the issue isn't with romantic love itself, the issue is with misogyny, normalization of violence, etc., etc. Okay, the romantic love is the foundation of the family unit. Ultimately, again, not to undermine single parents or anything like that, but we must acknowledge the difficulty in single parenting that exists currently in fulfilling everything, be that financially, emotionally, etc., etc. And unless you're wealthy, there can often be struggles with, finances, spending time with children, one or the other. In normalizing romantic love, we create firm, solid partnerships to share life's burdens with effectively, be that financially, emotional, or otherwise. You have an equal burden sharing across the board, where two individuals can do the job better than one. And it allows, so you have these solid partnerships to share these burdens with, and allow. Sorry, can't read my own writing. No, I'll take it in a minute. So any of the difficult, it effectively allows for individuals to achieve these things better. Whereas, oh my God, I'm just gonna, go for it.
So, the reason why misogyny and violence are norms that are entrenched in our society is because it is viewed as necessary to put up with your partner's bad behavior, because you should always have a partner, you need to have a romantic partner to be happy. It's always going to be a cycle of violence. We think removing the romantic element allows us to better expose that.
How about instead of doing that, you remove the normalization of violence and normalization of misogyny from that relationship? You normalize true romantic love, instead of the normalization that you described currently. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the benefits of women and caregivers in society. So, again, because of sexualized division of labor, you have things where, in normalizing career, finances, etc., ultimately you'll have parents abandoning children, abandoning families, abandoning people that they were hooked up with, got pregnant, etc., etc. Because of sexual division of labor, women are often left to look after these children on their own. They're often, often as individual, often leaving women in single-parent households who lack legal and financial support in society that they would otherwise have within a partnership that is founded on romantic love. This can often leave people working multiple jobs, unable to spend time with their children, which leads to significant harms when we abandon romantic love by allowing the damages that exist from being financially burdened, by being emotionally burdened, by having to do all this on your own, which primarily hits women as opposed to men, due again due to the fact that they will often be abandoned with this because of the sexual division of labour within society, ultimately leading to greater harms on our side. So all of the harms that we described, all of the harms that we get from romantic love are often mischaracterised on this side of the house by the fact that they're not characteristics of romantic love, but as opposed to other harms that exist, or other issues that exist within society. Secondly, on our side of the house, we actually get major tangible benefits in the forms of having solid partnerships and relationships to share with others, to have greater fulfillment, to have greater self-actualization, and to achieve to better oneself and to achieve a better society. For all those reasons, the more I urge you to oppose. Thank you.
So I think Robin's extension does two really useful things. One is she talks about how currently people incorrectly make this trade-off because of the biases that make you go in favour of romantic relationships. Notice that this is the only case which engages with it as a norm, right? So everyone else is like, oh, it would be better if individual people thought X and Y. We're like, yes, but the problem is people have certain biases, which mean that a norm is required in order to make them reach the correct thing. I think this takes out an awful lot of what we get in closing opposition. So they say that there are lots of benefits from being in relationships. I think people are very aware of these benefits, and in fact maybe irrationally too aware of these benefits in the status quo and in the comparative world in which we stand behind. So I think that means that people still pursue those things. What they need is a norm telling them to pursue work, which they don't need to, which they don't want to. For instance, because either work benefits other people, or the benefits are longer term, or the benefits are less nice. You don't get that rush, you don't get that person who you absolutely adore and who laughs at your jokes. Instead, you just get kind of like a slightly enjoyable research paper or whatever. So I think that's why we need norms in favour. I think that means that we can say, and I think that means we can say that a lot of this stuff that closing opposition say quite be nice people pursue romantic relationships. Out of this, you still will pursue romantic relationships. Secondly, the things she brings are about work. Now, I think there's a few things to note here. Is one that she does one is that she does new work on why this narrative is propagated, the fact that it's propagated via your family, the fact that it's propagated while it's internalized, the fact that it becomes something which you define your entire life with. Is the problem. But the problem here then, but I think the thing is that our impact is significantly larger than opening government. So the thing about work is that it is literally everything. So two impacts. One is that literally the benefits of work, and two, the benefits that work has to relationships. So firstly, the benefits of work. Well, I think one, doctors save lives, teachers make every single pupil better because they teach them. So if doctors are better, we save more lives. If teachers are better, everyone is educated better. If bankers are better, then we have slightly more economic growth. Every job that is created is one person whose life otherwise would have to be supported by the rest of society and who can now support themselves. Now, the benefits to this are, so we get the POI, this is why the POI from opening doesn't make sense when they say, but look, there's no comparative disadvantage because everyone's doing well. But then everyone's work is worse because everyone skips on the revision for the test to go on that date. Everyone spends too much time trying to think about relationships or deal with their relationship problems, and then as Robin says, everyone wastes time in bad relationships not working, so you don't even get the benefits because you're in a bad relationship and you're only doing it because of the norms. So what this means is the entire world is less good at everything that it does, right? I think this is when we're weighing this against opening government, opening opposition, who are saying, look, wouldn't it be a bit sad if people felt sad when other people earned more than them? I think, given that everyone collectively is earning more, I think we don't really care if you feel a bit sad that someone else is earning more than you. Secondly, that money itself is beneficial to eradicating poverty and all that. And okay, so obviously this sounds really high impact and unintuitive, but we're talking about literally changing the entire structure of the world. We're saying that every person will now care less about romantic relationships. I think we're allowed to talk about things that are genuinely as large as seriously impacting on the amount of people and the amount of work people do and the amount of poverty that's in the world, given how important people view relationships in the status quo, how massive this norm is. I think that is a relatively large harm. Now, why does this benefit also win the debate on ops terms? So the stuff that Robin says about work and so on is especially because you need stability in order to have a relationship, right? If you are unemployed, if you're constantly looking for the next paycheck, or if you're just underemployed, if you don't have as much money as you can, you don't have emotional space to devote to caring about someone. You don't believe in yourself enough to love yourself, and people who don't love themselves aren't loved by other people. I think this is now going on to something that opening opposition say, which is that that love is something which is easily accessible because everyone can do it. I think that's not true for a number of reasons. So one is that reason that if you are doing less well, it's harder to do that. You have less time. Secondly, if you have less money, you're less able to spend things. You spend money on things which get you relationships, like dates, like expensive dinners, like nice clothes for yourself. Thirdly, is that it's harder when you're socially stigmatized. If you have the social stigma of work, of being poor, then that means that people are less likely to do this. Less likely to go out with you as well. And because I think crucially the thing is that these two norms coexist, and I think opening opposition are wrong to say that it's like just like bar charts of norms where people change. Like people care about work and they also care about relationships. The fact that we have capitalist stigma against the poor isn't reduced in any sense because we also care about relationships. We just care about them differently, right? So I don't think that makes it less. And I think actually hobbies are easier to access. It's free to paint, it's free to garden, it's free to sing in the shower, right? If we care about things that you do yourself and can produce value, you can do a lot of that. So more rebuttal explicitly to opening opposition. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah? Okay, the reason why we value societal progress is because we believe that it makes people happier. We can access this happiness directly on our side without having to suffer from depressing jobs.
Cool. So I mean, again, I just think you are relatively happier if you're not starving than if you were already doing fine and now have a relationship. But secondly, I give you lots of reasons why you need to be relatively wealthy in order to have good relationships, which of course we benefit from our work stuff. So I think we win on your metric. Anyway, cool. So then the stuff about your comparison. So one is that relationships are private. I think workplace is private. I really, really love writing papers on political philosophy, and the amount that I love this is unable to be determined by anyone else. I think their claim that the value of work is only monetary is entirely assertive, and they give zero reasons for why that's true. I think people value the work for the effect they can see that they've had in the world, for the fact that they feel like they're useful. I think those things are also private and uncomparable and impossible to tell the difference. Because Robin really likes sociology and also cooking, right? So secondly, is that you can yeah, cool. I think then the thing is that it is quite easy to compare relationships, but crucially, the way you compare them is the bad ways. Because OO are right, and you can't see if someone actually loves the other person, all you see is the expensive holidays, and the pretty dates, and the Instagram pictures. The norm of relationships would be nice if it did do the good things, but it doesn't. Because we live in this capitalist society which makes everything terrible, relationships are also terrible. Now, you can't get rid of the capitalist society which makes everything terrible, but you can make everyone work a little bit harder at it, and that means everyone's lives are a little bit less shit, and I think that is actually a massive impact in relation to this debate. So please, proper.
So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be moving through each team, explaining how we took it over each team, and then reiterating my current arguments. So first of all, we heard from the opening of the team that love encourages us to place value on attractiveness rather than on personality. As I think my partner succinctly explained, this is not down to love, this is down to misogyny, it's down to chauvinism. So basically, this isn't a norm that we apply to men. Men, when we think about love, we don't judge them exclusively on their looks, we judge them on their prestige, on their status, on their money, on their personality. Why? Because we tend to see men more fully as people than we see women. So therefore, we believe that this is not a harm which is exclusive to love, it is a harm which is exclusive to misogyny because it applies not to men but only to women. Therefore, we believe that this isn't actually a harm that is applicable to this debate. We believe furthermore that if you remove romantic love, this will get worse because women will be judged solely on their sexual value rather than on their value as human beings. You've spoken about how other love, like familial love, filial love, disregards attractiveness. We believe that true romantic love also does so because it values you for who you are as a person rather than simply for your physical attractiveness. Like, I date loads of guys who are like 6'5" and have a good job. My boyfriend is a science nerd, but I really like him for him and not for his looks. You've also heard about like how you define yourself by how others see you, but I think this is a problem that is intrinsic to human beings altogether. We define ourselves by how other people see us in our job. We define ourselves by how other people see our cars. We define ourselves by how other people see our wealth. We define ourselves by how our family thinks about us. This is not something that is specifically exclusive to romantic love, and in fact, we would agree with our opening team that it's more damaging if you judge exclusively by like your car and your job, no thank you, than by who loves you. We've also heard that you have more time for career and self-improvement as alternatives, but again, we believe that this is not actually exclusive. We believe that you can have both a career and a love life, and also we believe that having a love life might actually encourage you to improve your career. First of all, because it'll encourage you to get a good job so that you can like attract someone, and then again, it'll encourage you to get a good job so that you can support someone, so that you can support your partner, so that you can support the family that you might have together. We've also heard about like valuing and prioritizing yourself, and how we put others before ourselves. But we believe that again, this is something that is a harm that is specific to women. Women, no thank you. Women are encouraged overly to put their partner before themselves. This is not something that men are encouraged to do overly within a relationship. So there again, this is the harm of misogyny, not a harm of love. But to the extent that men are encouraged to put others before them, we believe that it's something that's actually intrinsic to the cohesion of society, because we're all encouraged to put our children before ourselves. We're all encouraged to put our family before ourselves. We're all encouraged to put societal good before ourselves. No thank you, no thank you. And if we believe that societal cohesion depends on us actually putting others before ourselves, but not extensively, we believe that when it happens extensively, that's the problem, not with love, but with misogyny. We've also heard about how it's like easier to know yourself when you're not in love, but we believe that actually love can help you to know yourself. Someone that you love can introduce you to music that you might like. They can introduce you to hobbies that you might like. They can see qualities in you that you don't already see in yourself. They can actually help you to develop as a full human person. And thank you. We believe it's disingenuous to say that love always robs you of your value rather than adds to your own value. We've also heard about love as a chemical reaction. I think this is a complete fallacy, because you know what else is a chemical reaction? How parents bond with their babies. Sports, jobs, promotion, food, hunger, literally everything that humans experience can be brought down to a chemical reaction if you want to. So we believe that this falls entirely out of the debate. So then we heard from the opening up team about how this is better than other norms like which you can judge your life. And we believe that we give you a better rationale for this. I'm going to go on to this when I reiterate Mark's arguments, but we explain not only why this is superior to like wealth or your job because it's not measurable, we also talk about like the actual benefits you can get from love itself, like having a family, having a partner, having emotional support. I'm going to go on to more of that later. We've also heard about how this is accessible to everyone. But again, we explain the intrinsic benefits of love, not just to know why it's not bad, but we give a deeper analysis of the actual benefits that you can derive from love. Then we've also heard from our opening team about how the bad norms that we've heard from the other side are not specific to love. We believe that we've gone into a deeper analysis. We've explained what these norms actually are. We've explained how misogyny operates in this context. This isn't something that we've heard from our top half. We've explained how like capitalism and misogyny inform these things rather than love itself. I'll take opening.
Okay, so all the benefits of romantic love depend on years of dating, a chance of finding a compatible partner, deciding whether you want to settle with them, and then actually making a choice to commit with them.
Thank you. And we believe this is something that most people actually achieve within their lifetime. Most people are actually able to find stable, romantic, happy relationships. We believe that this is something that most adults in our lives have experienced at some point. Therefore, we believe that it's not something that tends to lock people out. It's actually much more accessible than having a good career. It's much more accessible than going to a good school. We believe that also falls out of the comparative here. Then we've also heard from our opening team about stability and how this provides financial stability, but we've gone a little bit deeper into how this specifically benefits women. So moving on to Mark's arguments. Mark has told us about like how this effectively gives you a better life because it's a good source of happiness in itself. It gives you companionship, it gives you love, it gives you emotional support, it gives you much deeper emotional connection and emotional depth to your life than you can get from any other of the things that you can focus your life about. You can have the joy of raising children with somebody. You can have the joy of like having a partner that you can always depend on in the bad times. You can have somebody who completely understands you, somebody you're compatible with, somebody you deeply love and feel affection towards. We've also heard about like how this benefits family life. No thank you. How this is a good way to organise family life because according to the sexual division of labour, women do most of the caring work. Therefore, if you have like two partners within a family who can divide both the caring work and the work that goes into earning a livelihood, there's less work for both partners to do overall. Or maybe one partner doing the productive work and one partner doing the caring work, but overall it's less of a burden on parents when there are two parents doing the work together, and it specifically disadvantages women when you don't have romantic love. Because when you don't have romantic love, women tend to be left to do most of the child rearing anyway, but they're doing it on less income and on less time. So we believe this is something which specifically advantages women when you have a romantic life. We also believe this is going to encourage people to work harder. It's going to encourage you to work harder because you want to support your family, you want to support your children, you want to support your romantic partner, no thank you. And it can also improve you financially if you have a 2-income household rather than a 1-income household where you can support your children. I also want to talk about like balance and how it helps you to achieve balance. So this directly clashes with the closing, no thank you. Directly clashes with the closing team here because they've told you how like this will help you get better at work, but we believe you actually do better at work when you're achieving more of a work-life balance, which allows you to focus better on your work when you're in work. They've talked about, the closing team talked about how you judge by the measure of wealth, even when love stops you from achieving it. But first of all, we believe that love doesn't have to stop you from achieving wealth. First of all, dual income families tend to have more money than single income families. Secondly, your partner can encourage you to earn more. They can like encourage you to earn more because you want to support them. But also we think like maybe it's better not to value yourself excessively by your wealth. Maybe it's better to like place more emphasis on true emotional connection. We've also heard about like how you can lose out on your career and on your education because of love. We believe this is a harm which is specific to women, because women who are like most likely to prioritise their children. We've specifically explained to you how women benefit when they're in a dual income family, where they can both work and support the children, and how actually women suffer more when they're single parents than when they're in a partnership. We've also heard about like how you miss out more in career than in love due to a time lapse. But we believe again that like maybe it can be good to focus on something which is not your career. Maybe it's good to focus on something which is like less flippant. Maybe it's good to focus on something which is more internal to you and less like easy to lose. We believe that like the harms that you've talked about are really specific to women and they're specific to misogyny, and therefore